Think the 1970s were just about muscle cars and disco? Think again. The 70s were also a golden era for farming machines, when tractor manufacturers went all out to build absolute beasts of horsepower. From John Deere giants to international harvester legends, these tractors didn't just plow fields, they redefined power, durability, and innovation. Stick around because in this video we're counting down the top 10 most powerful tractors from the 1970s, and trust me, some of these machines are still farming legends today. Number 1. Big Bud 16 V747, 1977. When people talk about the most powerful tractors of the 1970s, one machine immediately comes to mind: the Big Bud 16 V747. Built in 1977 as a one-off custom order for the Rossi brothers, a pair of large-scale cotton farmers in Montana, the 747 wasn't just another tractor, it was a statement of what farming power could truly look like. At a time when most big tractors were just reaching the 200 horsepower mark, Big Bud turned the entire industry on its head by producing a machine that dwarfed anything else on the market. At the heart of the 747 was a 16-cylinder Detroit diesel 16-492T engine, a two-stroke diesel powerhouse paired with twin turbochargers and capable of producing an astonishing 760 horsepower in field conditions. To put that into perspective, this was more than double the horsepower of most large tractors of the time. Its engine displacement was a jaw-dropping 24 liters, making it more comparable to industrial locomotives or mining equipment than anything else on the farm. This immense power meant the Big Bud could pull tillage equipment up to 80 feet wide, an unbelievable feat for the late 1970s. But raw horsepower wasn't the only thing that made the 747 special. Its sheer physical size was equally shocking. The tractor measured over 27 feet long, 20 feet wide, and nearly 14 feet tall, with a weight of over 100,000 pounds when fully ballasted. The massive 8-foot-tall tires, built specifically for the tractor by United Tire Company of Canada, were nearly as tall as a person and gave it the kind of traction necessary to put that horsepower to work. This wasn't just a machine, it was a rolling piece of agricultural architecture. What also sets the 747 apart is the philosophy behind its creation. In the 1970s, tractor manufacturers were primarily designing machines for mass production, with limits in horsepower dictated by what they could sell to the average farmer. Big Bud, a relatively small Montana-based company, wasn't bound by those constraints. Instead, they were willing to engineer a tractor to meet the exact needs of a large-scale operator, without worrying about whether it was too big or too powerful. This approach gave birth to the 747, a tractor built for one farm, but destined to become a legend for all time. Even today, nearly 5 decades later, the 747 retains its crown as the world's largest farm tractor. It still draws massive crowds at agricultural shows, with farmers and tractor enthusiasts alike marveling at the sheer audacity of its design. More than just a machine, the Big Bud 747 is a symbol of American innovation, scale, and the 1970s spirit of pushing boundaries. It was overkill, glorious, unapologetic overkill, and it remains the gold standard of tractor legend. Number 2. Versatile 1150, 1977. If the Big Bud 747 was the king of custom-built machines, then the versatile 1150 was the production tractor that proved high-horsepower farming was practical, reliable, and ready for the mainstream. Versatile, based in Winnipeg, Canada, had already built a strong reputation throughout the 1960s and early 1970s for creating rugged, affordable, and easy-to-service four-wheel drive tractors. But in 1977, they took things to an entirely new level with the introduction of the 1150, a tractor that instantly set the bar for power in production agriculture. The 1150 was powered by the legendary Cummins KTA 150 engine, a massive 19-liter inline 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel. This beast produced a staggering 470 horsepower, making it one of the most powerful production tractors of the 1970s. Known for its ability to run long hours under heavy loads, the KTA 150 was already widely respected in heavy-duty trucks, mining, and marine applications. Bringing that kind of industrial power into agriculture was a game-changer. With its enormous torque curve, the 1150 could lug through the toughest soils without faltering, even when pulling implements wider than 30 feet. The versatile 1150 wasn't just about brute strength. It was also about practicality and serviceability, qualities that farmers cherished. Unlike some of its competitors, the 1150 was designed with a relatively simple mechanical layout. Its components were accessible, and repairs could often be done by farmers themselves with standard tools rather than requiring specialized service centers. This made it not only powerful, but also farmer-friendly, reducing downtime and keeping operations moving during critical planting and harvesting windows. Physically, the 1150 was an imposing machine, with an articulated 4WD design that gave it excellent traction and maneuverability despite its bulk. Its red and yellow paint scheme quickly became iconic across the North American prairies, where farmers needed machines capable of working thousands of acres efficiently. When you saw a versatile 1150 in the field, pulling a massive cultivator or chisel plow, you instantly knew that the farm meant serious business. What the 1150 represented, more than anything, was the democratization of high horsepower. Unlike the one-off custom-built Big Bud, the versatile 1150 was available to any farmer who was willing to invest. It marked a turning point in the 1970s, proving that nearly 500 horsepower could be delivered in a reliable, repeatable, production-ready package. For many large-scale farmers, this was the machine that allowed them to expand their acreage, adopt wider implements, and embrace the future of large-scale mechanized farming. Today, the versatile 1150 remains one of the most fondly remembered tractors of the 1970s. Collectors prize them, farmers still put them to work, and the Cummins-powered monster continues to symbolize the rugged reliability and bold engineering of its era. Number 3. Steiger Tiger II, late 1970s. If versatile was the practical workhorse of Canadian prairies, then Steiger was the green muscle of the American Great Plains. Founded by brothers in a barn in North Dakota, Steiger had grown by the 1970s into one of the most respected names in heavy four-wheel drive tractors. Their machines were designed specifically for one purpose: to handle massive acreages with unmatched power and durability. And by the late 1970s, the Steiger Tiger II stood at the top of that lineup, representing the pinnacle of Steiger engineering in the decade. The Tiger II was typically powered by the Cummins KT1150 or Caterpillar engines, both of which were industrial-grade power plants capable of producing 450 to 470 horsepower. These engines were chosen not just for their raw power, but also for their ability to sustain that power hour after hour, day after day, under the extreme loads of heavy tillage. With massive torque and robust cooling systems, the Tiger II could confidently pull implements across vast fields without overheating or bogging down. One of the key strengths of the Tiger II was Steiger's commitment to heavy-duty industrial components. Unlike some competitors that adapted row-crop tractor parts into their 4WDs, Steiger used transmissions, axles, and frames that were purpose-built for high horsepower. This meant fewer breakdowns, longer service life, and tractors that could endure punishing workloads over multiple decades. Farmers quickly learned that Steigers weren't flashy, but they were built to last, and the Tiger II, with its sheer size and strength, was the embodiment of that reputation. In the field, the Tiger II was a game-changer for efficiency. A tractor of this caliber allowed farmers to pull incredibly wide cultivators, chisels, and air seeders, turning what once took weeks into jobs that could be finished in a fraction of the time. The stability of the articulated frame, combined with its weight and traction, meant that operators could confidently handle uneven terrain and heavy soils without excessive wheel slip. This efficiency made it particularly attractive to custom operators and large-scale farms who needed to cover thousands of acres in tight seasonal windows. The distinctive green color of Steiger tractors became a familiar sight across the American plains in the 1970s. To many, seeing a Steiger Tiger II at work was a symbol of progress, power, and the modernization of farming. While it may not have reached the astronomical power levels of the custom-built Big Bud, the Tiger II represented something equally important: consistent, reliable, production-ready high horsepower that farmers could depend on year after year. Today, the Tiger II remains one of the most legendary Steigers ever built. Collectors and vintage machinery enthusiasts remember it as one of the defining machines of the late 1970s, a tractor that combined industrial engineering with agricultural practicality, delivering power that truly changed the game for American farming. Number 4. Case 2470, Traction King. By the mid-1970s, J.I. Case was determined to show farmers that it could go toe-to-toe with the giants of the high-horsepower tractor world. The result was the Case 2470 Traction King, introduced in 1976, a machine that combined rugged engineering, bold styling, and more than enough horsepower to hang with the best of its era. At the heart of the 2470 was a turbocharged 504 cubic inch six-cylinder Case diesel engine, delivering around 250 horsepower. For farmers of the time, that was a serious jump in capability, giving them the muscle to pull wider implements and tackle larger acreages with confidence. The engine was known for its durability and strong torque curve, allowing it to dig in and keep pulling even in sticky soils or under heavy tillage loads. The 2470 carried forward Case's famous Traction King design philosophy, an articulated four-wheel drive chassis that maximized power transfer to the ground while still offering excellent maneuverability. Its long wheelbase and heavy frame provided stability, while the articulation made it surprisingly nimble for such a large machine. This balance gave the 2470 a reputation for being both strong and versatile, a tractor that could handle the heavy jobs while still being practical on real-world farms. Another standout feature was the operator's environment. Case recognized that farmers were spending long days in the cab, so the 2470 included improved comfort, visibility, and ergonomics compared to earlier models. The large windows gave operators a commanding view of their implements and fields, while the controls were laid out for easier, less fatiguing use during marathon planting or tillage sessions. Visually, the 2470 was pure 70s Case, painted in the company's signature power white and desert sunset orange, with a bold squared-off cab design that made it instantly recognizable in the field. To this day, the sight of a 2470 churning through the soil remains an iconic image of 1970s high-horsepower farming. The Case 2470 Traction King may not have been the single most powerful tractor of its time, but it struck a near-perfect balance of strength, durability, and operator comfort. For many farmers, it was the machine that proved Case was a true player in the horsepower wars of the decade. And decades later, the 2470 still holds a special place in the hearts of collectors, restorers, and farmers who remember the roar of its engine and the strength of its pull. Number 5. John Deere 8630. For John Deere, the mid-1970s were a period of bold moves. After years of dominating the row crop tractor market, Deere knew it couldn't afford to ignore the growing demand for articulated four-wheel drive machines. The company responded with the 30 Series 4WD line, and at the center of that push was the John Deere 8630. Launched in 1973, the 8630 was Deere's first major entry into the high-horsepower 4WD arena. It was equipped with a turbocharged six-cylinder diesel engine rated at about 275 horsepower, depending on whether you quoted engine, PTO, or drawbar ratings. While not as extreme as some of the custom or industrial-influenced tractors of the decade, the 8630 represented something equally important. It allowed farmers loyal to Deere to stay within the green ecosystem while moving into true heavy tillage power. The 8630 wasn't just about horsepower. It was about the full Deere package. Farmers appreciated the ability to buy a large 4WD from the same dealer who sold their combines, row crop tractors, and implements. Parts commonality meant easier inventory management, and Deere's extensive dealer network provided a level of support that many competitors couldn't match. Inside the cab, Deere made a conscious effort to deliver comfort and ergonomics. By the 1970s, long days in the field were a reality, and the 8630 featured improved visibility, reduced steering effort, and better controls than many of its peers. Operators could run the tractor for 10 or 12 hours and still feel relatively fresh, a huge selling point compared to older bare-bones designs. In the field, the 8630 delivered consistent pulling power for big chisels, wide cultivators, and the heavier drills and planters that were becoming more common. Farmers who had previously relied on multiple smaller tractors could now consolidate tasks, saving time and fuel. For many green-blooded families, the 8630 was a statement machine. It showed that Deere wasn't going to sit out the horsepower wars of the 1970s, and while it wasn't perfect, early models faced some engine and driveline challenges under extreme conditions. It laid the groundwork for Deere's eventual dominance in the high-horsepower 4WD sector in the decades that followed. Number 6. International Harvester 4586, 1976, Onward. By the mid-1970s, International Harvester IH was determined not to be left behind in the race for bigger, stronger four-wheel drive tractors. The result was the 4586, a machine that embodied the company's Red Power philosophy while delivering around 300 horsepower in a big frame articulated design. The 4586 typically ran a turbocharged big cube diesel engine, often from the Cummins camp, designed to produce reliable torque under heavy draft conditions. What made the tractor stand out wasn't just the number on the spec sheet, but the way the torque curve translated into real pulling performance. Operators frequently recalled how the 4586 would dig in and hold speed even in sticky soils or when clawing its way uphill at the end of a pass. IH engineers placed a strong emphasis on service-friendly design and cooling capacity. Components were laid out for easier access, which meant less downtime when maintenance was required. The cooling system was also robust, ensuring the tractor could run hard all day without overheating, an absolute necessity for fall tillage or spring planting when weather windows were tight. For farms already running IH row crop tractors like the popular 1066 or 1466, the 4586 was a natural complement. Those smaller tractors handled precision row work, while the big 14586 took over the heavy tillage and land-shaping tasks. In many ways, it allowed farms to scale up without abandoning brand loyalty. While some competitors may have had flashier horsepower numbers, the 4586 earned a reputation as a steady, dependable workhorse. It wasn't about show, it was about pulling hard hour after hour, season after season. And for many operations, it was the tractor that truly made large-scale tillage manageable. Number 7. JI Case 2670's Traction King. Early mid-1970s. The Case 2670's Traction King was one of the most distinctive 4WD tractors of the 1970s, both in appearance and in reputation. Introduced in the early part of the decade, it was commonly rated around 250 horsepower, which placed it firmly in the heavy hitter category at the time. What made the 2670 stand out was its articulated frame and long wheelbase, which gave it an incredibly stable and planted feel under heavy drawbar loads. When pulling wingfold implements or dragging big chisels across the field, the Traction King name felt entirely earned. Case engineers designed the tractor to maximize traction efficiency, ensuring that horsepower translated directly into forward motion rather than wheel slip. Beyond raw performance, the 2670 also represented Case's recognition that the operator environment mattered. By the 1970s, farmers were spending long hours in the cab, and Case equipped the 2670 with improved visibility, more ergonomic controls, and reduced steering effort. These touches weren't luxuries, they were essential to keeping farmers productive and less fatigued during long runs. Another selling point was maintainability. The 2670 was engineered to be serviceable without requiring specialized tools or knowledge. Farmers could tackle much of the upkeep themselves, making it a reliable partner that didn't demand constant trips to the dealer. With its bright orange paint and bold stance, the 2670 remains one of the most recognizable Case tractors of its era. Farmers still recall its combination of strength, stability, and practicality, proof that Case knew how to build a serious 4WD contender. Number 8. Allis-Chalmers 8550, late 1970s. The Allis-Chalmers 8550 was the Milwaukee company's answer to the big frame tractor race of the late 1970s. Sitting at the top of their lineup, the 8550 delivered around 230 horsepower, which may have seemed modest compared to the monstrous Big Buds or Steigers, but in real-world terms it was a serious machine that could hold its own on large acreages. One of the 8550's hallmarks was robust build quality. Allis engineers paid special attention to the driveline and gearing, ensuring that the tractor's turbocharged diesel engine operated in its most efficient range under load. The result was a tractor that punched above its weight, delivering steady pulling power that often felt stronger than its rated numbers suggested. In sticky soils or on rolling terrain, the 8550 excelled. Its gear ratios allowed operators to maintain momentum without excessive downshifting, creating a sense of confidence and predictability in tough conditions. Farmers appreciated the fact that the tractor could work long hours without faltering, and that reliability became one of its biggest calling cards. The 8550 also reflected Allis-Chalmers' knack for building tractors that felt a little different. Machines with a touch of engineering flair that set them apart from the pack. For loyal Allis customers, the 8550 wasn't just a tool, it was the proud flagship of their fleet. While it may not have reached the legendary status of some of its higher horsepower rivals, the 8550 remains a beloved tractor among collectors and enthusiasts today, a testament to Allis-Chalmers' role in the horsepower wars of the 1970s. Number 9. Massey Ferguson, 1800, early 1970s. Massey Ferguson's entry into the big 4WD market in the early 1970s came through a partnership with Wagner, a company already known for building heavy-duty industrial tractors. The Massey Ferguson 1800 was a direct beneficiary of that collaboration, borrowing Wagner's industrial-grade articulated frame design and combining it with Massey's agricultural expertise. Typically rated in the high 100s for PTO horsepower, the MF 1800 might not sound extreme compared to later giants, but its real-world pulling power was far greater than the spec sheet suggested. Thanks to its heavy build and traction-friendly articulation, the 1800 could deliver consistent drawbar power that rivaled much larger competitors. What made the 1800 especially valuable was its durability in adverse conditions. Whether working in heavy clay after a rain or climbing hills with a fully loaded grain drill, the 1800 kept moving where smaller tractors would have spun out or bogged down. Its industrial DNA gave it toughness that row crop tractors simply couldn't match. For many farmers, the MF 1800 opened the door to larger implements, offset discs, wider plows, and heavy tillage tools that demanded more than 2WD row crops could handle. It was also versatile in the truest sense of the word, equally at home doing construction-type work on the farm, such as pulling grain trains or handling land development tasks. The MF 1800 may not have had the flashiest numbers, but it carried a reputation as a durable, hard-working brute. For Massey customers, it represented a new era of capability and a chance to compete in the growing world of large-scale farming. Number 10. Steiger Panther. While the Steiger Tiger II is often remembered as the peak of Steiger's 1970s power lineup, the Panther series deserves equal recognition as one of the most balanced and dependable high-horsepower tractors of the decade. Introduced in the mid-1970s, the Panther generally fell into the 300-plus horsepower class, typically powered by either Cummins or Caterpillar engines, both proven industrial power plants with reputations for longevity. The Panther's strength was not just in horsepower, but in its reliability under load. Farmers knew that when they hitched a Panther to a big implement, it would pull all day, holding speed and torque without overheating or shedding components. This made it especially attractive to custom operators who depended on uptime and consistency as they moved from farm to farm, covering thousands of acres. Steiger also built the Panther with serviceability and practicality in mind. The company's roots in North Dakota farm country meant they understood what farmers needed: components that could take punishment, parts that were readily available, and a design that didn't overcomplicate maintenance. This focus made the Panther a default choice for many operations that wanted big power without unnecessary headaches. In the field, the Panther struck an ideal balance, big enough to handle serious acreage, but not so extreme as to be overkill. Its weight, traction, and frame design gave it confident handling, and its powertrain delivered a consistent, usable torque curve that made it one of the most trustworthy workhorses of the 1970s. For many farmers, the Panther was their introduction to the world of Steiger, and it cemented the brand's reputation as a builder of tough green giants that got the job done. And that wraps up our journey through the iron giants of the 1970s. These tractors weren't just machines. They were lifelines for farmers, powering through tough fields and heavy workloads with raw strength and reliability. From classic John Deere horsepower to international harvester monsters, these tractors proved that the 70s were a true revolution in farming power. So, which one was your favorite from the list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss more powerful tractor history and farming legends. Until next time, keep those engines roaring.